was a typo, and I'm like, welcome to Comics League Movie Night. I am Jared, and I'm here with Robert. What's up, dude?
Yo, what up?
And today we are talking about a crossover movie that, well, technically two movies, but we're considering them one story, so we'll just call them one movie.
There's a complete compilation release. So yeah, it's one movie.
It's one movie. I'll call it that. So it's RWBY Justice League or Justice League.
Justice League RWBY, definitely Justice League RWBY. Yeah.
Yeah, and okay, so here's the thing. So I was, so you know, it's kind of funny, Robert. Before this, like this is actually before Comics League was a thing. So one of my buddies from Atlanta, where I used to live, was constantly telling me, Jared, I think you should check out RWBY. I think you'd actually enjoy it, because I was still tangentially into superheroes and stuff. So it was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. So we watched like the first like 3 or 4 volumes, and I was like, okay, cool. I tried to keep up with it, but then I just was like, nah. Plus, I was still recovering from pyridine, so
yeah.
I will say the beat 'em up game actually is really fun.
Arrowfell or the cross tag?
Cross tag, I think.
Oh, cross tag, that was good. Arrowfell's also a pretty good Metroidvania type of game.
Yeah, so all right. So this comes out. I mean, this gets announced. So I go, first off, I'm like, yeah, it makes sense you could do that, because RWBY is kind of superhero-y, and you can make this work. And I'm gonna tell you right now, because Robert and I were talking about this before we went live. Part 2, from a narrative story perspective, is better than part 1. However, The ending is not as like narratively satisfying as part 1.
Especially the climax action. The action is nowhere near as good in part 2 compared to part 1's big climax.
So going into part 1, I thought they were doing what they did in the comics, which is what if the Justice League actually were RWBY characters? I thought they were going with that, which in that comic, it was basically because Jessica Jones from a version of the DC universe showed up Jessica. I was like, hey, Marvel DC crossover.
Cruz. She shows up, fighting Starro, but by ending up in there, and she kind of altered the reality of the world, where the world kind of had to change itself to accommodate. So years ago, she ended up. It was also a bit of time travel and multiversal travel involved. So when Starro landed in the past, the world started creating variations of the League, some of the Leaguers in there, but they were born there. Like Wonder Woman's an automaton, kind of like the character of Penny, but created by a version of the Amazons.
That's interesting. So what you're telling me, Robert, is that this was technically another Flashpoint.
Technically, but it only affected the RWBY world.
Yeah, that's the way I thought they were going with that.
Nope. Instead here, because I think they wanted to keep this one tangentially being able to connect it to RWBY and have it fit in canon, quasi, but also because, well, they already told that story. They didn't want to have to adapt it.
Yeah, exactly. And Cameron says, if I recall correctly, this was Jessica's first appearance in the animated project.
No.
Where else?
That would have been DC Superhero Girl Show.
Oh yeah, because she was in that. But all right, so part 1 is like Superman wakes up, and as far as he knows, he's still Superman. He's not putting these together, because the way this works is that the League and RWBY are put in it's basically simulation. The Matrix.
Yeah, a simulation of Remnant, but it's not right. For example, this is set after volume 7, so the girls have gone through a lot of experience. They've gone through hell, pretty much, and they should be wearing different outfits, but they're back wearing their first 3 seasons outfits.
Yeah, exactly. By Julian, I didn't, because it's like I didn't really feel the need to. And this movie does a good enough job of explaining stuff, so or like not addressing it, so you don't necessarily have to be watching RWBY for so long to understand this.
Oh, and by the way, I should point out, written by Megan Fitzmartin.
I know.
And this is one of...
Why did you say that name?
I had to say that for all the Tim Drake fans.
Yeah, but let's be honest, she's done some decent other work, like co-writing JSA World War II, or the Superman All-Star Superman audio they recently.
Yeah, exactly. That's so. It's like it's just you need to really rein her in order for stuff to actually be good with that. But so the league is scattered and everyone like experiences a corner of like the world. And here's the thing, credit to them, it is logical where they're placed. Like Bruce lands in like the more affluent areas of Remnant, so I'm like, oh, okay, that works.
Yep, you have Wonder Woman ending up meeting up with Yang and Blake Blake first, and then meeting up with Yang, but that made a little sense as well. I gotta say, the opening couple minutes were a little off until like that bit leading up to everyone regrouping, where you had Blake's mom or Ozpin and Glinda appearing, but then they're just not right, especially Ozpin. That felt a little like, okay, that's to set up something's wrong, but it's also not really necessary. Also, the Grimm can absorb dust, which they never could before.
Yeah, that's the other thing, and so the other thing. All right, so the Justice League's powers aren't working, and it's like it's because in this world they're operating under the you have
semblance
to essentially unlock your abilities and learn how to like channel it.
Yeah.
That's clever. I was like, okay, you're adjusting it to the rules of the world.
I also like that Jessica and Vixen both need their external, the ring or their the necklace, but at the same time they have semblances that can mimic it. They're the ones who have to struggle the most. The others are just trying to figure out what they have. Like Wonder Woman, she's kind of like Ultra Lad from the Legion, where she has 3 ability constructs she can make that giving her different abilities, but she can only pick one at a time.
Yeah, so that's really cool on that. And Jessica Cruz in this movie, that you could make the argument that she has the biggest character arc of like, because she goes through the whole, am I still a hero without my ring? Because she can't find the ring and stuff.
And she's also the youngest. I mean, she's barely a teen. She's like a tween, closer to a tween.
Yeah, exactly. And I really, again, this is like as like Batman Ninja 2, where they respected both of my favorite female characters. So I appreciate that.
And I gotta remember this as well. She didn't gain her all of her mental issues until an adult. So you're taking the adult viewpoint, but now putting it into a teenage body and taking away her ring. So not only does she, as Jean puts it, have a flare-up, she just has a complete utter crisis.
And I like in this, so they play off of Jean's semblance, which essentially he augments other people's semblances. Mm-hmm. And he's the one that like helps her like essentially like power up her abilities. And then we get Jessica Cruz doing the Green Lantern oath, which I'm like,
that was a great moment.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, the voice acting here is, most of them are good for what they have, but Jessica was definitely one of the best. Also, what I like about Jean is that he was in her shoes, so it was very fitting that he's doing for her what Pyrrha did for him.
Speaking of that, all right, so this movie pissed me royally off because I was one of those people that was like, why did you have to kill her off? And then it's like, so then she shows back up in this, and I go, oh, wait a minute. Are they actually using this to resurrect Pyrrha? And then it's a simulation.
Yep, all to try and distract her.
I go, God damn it, Ruby.
Mm-hmm. You have that. But yeah,
they're all... Wonder Woman still is useful without her powers because, yeah, she is a warrior. They play into that.
They do. And they also play up on the notion of child soldiers.
Yep, exactly. And I like how Diana's like the diplomat kind of, but then she's like, just take me to my friends and stuff, and they all rally at the
beacon
at the academy, and it's kind of I both liked and didn't like that they have to make fun. Okay, so it's better than having one person on our team named Superman.
Yeah, but that guy got a good payoff in part 2 at the start of part 2.
Yeah. Cameron says, yeah, I hated it was a simulation. It could have just been an argument. Yeah, but the comics did that, like Robert said, so they want to do something new. But
Yep.
a simulation, though.
And but I also would say I did not like the forced love tension between Ren, Nora, and Cyborg.
Yeah. What? Well, it's Fats Martin. If someone's gonna force in romantic tension where it doesn't belong, it's her.
Yeah, but you already had fun teasing the stuff with Blake and Yang, which was already close to being canonized by that point.
Yeah, but the funny part is like Cameron brings up a good point where Batman's involved on this, and it's about child soldiers.
Of course. Okay, Batman.
Yeah,
okay,
I get talk about that.
I kind of get where the intent was. The intent was sound. They're all been reduced to teenagers. We rarely ever saw Batman as a teenager. And for all we know, there could have been a time where he was self-conscious and felt like if I had powers in a world of metahumans, maybe I could do my job and everything. And this just made it crawl up. But the only other person who had this was mostly Jessica.
Yeah, but it's like it's Batman saying I could be a better hero if I had powers, and I go, no.
No. Again, that and the voice acting was definitely the weakest.
Well, here's the other thing, Robert. Yes, they're teenagers, but they still have gone through all their like experiences as adults. So I'm like,
yeah,
but you don't need superpowers.
Exactly. Again, they were led to believe, as the villain, which we'll get to in a moment, states all of the imbalance and hormones and everything could have caused it, which it could have.
But it's like, as far as we know, in this year, in his time, he's already done the contingency plan thing. So it's like, you could take down gods. You don't need powers.
I will say, I do like, you barely notice it, but it's really there in part 2. He has a scar similar, but not as presentable on the opposite side of his face to Weiss.
Yeah, exactly.
I love the brother-sister dynamic they had, and then the father-daughter in part 2.
And then Cameron says, saying it now, it should have been the Titans, but I guess why they went with the League. Yeah, they went with the League because the League are the more recognizable characters of DC. I'm sorry, that's subjectively true. But
yep.
It's like, it would narratively, at least part 1 would have worked more if it were the Titans, I think.
Yeah, but eventually, once you realize there is a conspiracy, that once they start to piece everything together, and when the action really starts to ramp up to the end, it starts to make things clear. Like Flash seems to be off, and it turns out that's intentional. I love how both Superman figured it out before Batman showed up, but Batman, and then they both reveal together.
Yeah. Now, okay. So it's revealed that the villain is the Justice League villain Kilgore. Now, Robert, explain to the audience who Kilgore is.
He's a few, as they say in there, a few spark plugs short of a full fuse or whatever. He is a computerized villain that usually deals with the Flash. Usually one of those cases of a villain who's very not really, he's a big threat if he actually focuses, but kind of like Electro in that regard on Spidey, where it's like he should be a bigger threat, but he's usually just not competent enough to do it.
So he's like a less capable Terminator.
Terminator or Terminator mixed with Skynet, or no, Ultron. He's like a lesser Ultron.
Yeah, I'll give you that. So the fight is resolved, and then they leave the simulation. Then we get the DC side. So
part 1.
So essentially, part 1 is what if the DC character what if the DC characters are on RWBY, and then in part 2 it's the opposite.
And I do like how they explain stuff like, oh, turns out there was a time differentiation between them. That's why in RWBY, a lot of time passed, whereas for the League, it was just a couple of days, where it's like, well, it's been weeks for us.
So my first problem with part 2 involves Black Canary. Because here's the thing. In the regular DC universe, the League is their regular age. So like, let's say mid-30s. Black Canary acts like she's RWBY's age.
Yeah, and it feels like she just joined the League, it feels like.
Yeah, and I'm like,
I mean, that could be why she was placed on watching the League duty during all that.
Yeah, but they should have explained that.
Oh, they should have. It was done. You do know this was mostly done for stunt casting because they got some celebrities for the voices.
No, but still portray Black Canary properly, and not if you want her to be younger, have her be one of the people. Well, if you want to be younger, then just say all that.
Agreed. Oh, I completely agree. And I will say though, now we do swap some of the actors. Now, um, Jessica and Cyborg stick around, but the Trinity are replaced with one of the Trinities of voice acting: Travis William, Laura Bailey, and Troy Baker.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I've long said that Laura Bailey would voice Wonder Woman really well, and this movie is my evidence because she's great in this. Jessica Cruz loses her Jessica goes from a central character to a background character in this movie.
Well, and we'll get to the climax, but
yeah, but
the big mystery, sorry.
I did like the voice actor for Batman.
That's Troy Baker. He's done that. He's done that plenty of times. He's the guy who's done Joker in the Arkham Origins, and he's done Batman and other things like Lego Batman and the Ninja Turtles Batman crossover.
Yeah, exactly. So it's been he always does a really great job as Batman. So anyway. So the
I was gonna bring up Flash's actor. I was gonna bring up that was what's his name, Polka Dot Man.
Yeah, Dog Makian or something like that. The Baba Yaga guy from Ant-Man.
Yeah, I seriously, he did really good job on this one.
Yeah, I really dug that. So the Grimm are showing up in DC,
but
the universe DC.
Yeah, and there's something off about them.
Yeah, exactly.
Even more so than they were in the simulation. Here they're like blobs and everything. They melt, all that stuff. That's not how, I mean, they sort of how they work, but not really how they work.
And then the superheroes are forced to enlist the aid of like the Rogues and Killer Croc and stuff, which I'm like, okay, that's cool. See, this is the other thing I really like about this. They could have, is that the mixture of characters that show up in this. I mean, Joker and Harley Quinn show up, but they don't do anything in this.
Well,
I'm glad the active villains are more of like
why do I have
choicey.
Why do I have a feeling though that at the end there was meant to be more villains? Because that shot where they revealed they were all hidden, it felt like you don't do a white shot unless you're having a bigger group and it's just 3. Oh no, 4, just 4. It's like, really?
It could be that they
cost
that they had an idea that they originally wanted more, but then because of cost, they were told to like chop it down a little bit.
Yeah, because you get what I mean when that shot, that just felt like that should have had more. But we are questioning the big thing. Who from RWBY was working with Watts? And I do like how they actually read with some of the ones that fans had. Not Watts, was Kilgore. It was and Professor Watts from of their villains who they never fought. This gave him a chance to actually face off against him because he was killed off properly in the show. But thanks to his intellect and Kilgore, he made a back of himself. But I do like how they acknowledge a few others, including a villain from one of their games that fans thought, hey, he could have done it. I like how they actually made a reference to that.
Yeah, exactly. So there's like a lot that, so it's like, I definitely enjoyed like, again, this movie did like part 2. The reason why I like it more in addition to the writing is because, again, it's like all the stuff, because they went with both known and unknown. I mean, there's even like shots of Shazam and all the other leaguers fighting. And I'm like, okay, that's really cool. They didn't have to do that, but I like what they did there.
I like that too. I also like some moments like Batman, who didn't have powers, gained powers and remnants, but Weiss, who's the one that's been interacting with Batman, loses her powers. And I love her expression when she goes, great, just great.
Yeah, exactly. And
Blake's not a faunus in this world, so she doesn't have her cat ears. I'm not sure. I get why they didn't focus on it, but it felt like that was a missed opportunity.
They could have like made her like Cheetah or something like that.
Or emphasize her being a full human, but I get why. That could have also led to some more annoyances than just compared to ignoring it.
Well, the other thing is like, remember, it's like since the League lost their powers when they showed up in Remnant, it makes sense that they do the same for
Oh
the
yeah.
RWBY characters.
Oh, and I love Ruby's abilities. How she can teleport, but she can actually take stuff that's around her with her, like an attack from a Grim.
Yeah, which I dug that, and I like how the Grim all of a sudden start using the weaknesses of DC characters like Kryptonite.
Yep. Also, Flash, who was possessed by Kilgore in part one, the PTSD he was going through, and how Yang, who went through her own PTSD, which I love that, lived a lot of life for a kid.
Yeah, exactly. See, they mixed the DC and RWBY characters together actually really, really, really well.
Yep. And like we said before, the whole like it's super and Clark, here it's Superman. The name makes sense now.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I like that.
Yeah, or earlier when they're like, Clark.
Battlegoon says, I wish they had Blake struggle with losing her fondest nature in the DC world, given how it's important to her, but also made her suffer racism. Yeah, but it's like
they had only a certain amount of time to do it. It's why they didn't include. They didn't bring Jean and his team because they already had enough as it is.
Well, here's the thing: if this were an entire season of RWBY, they would have dealt with that. I know they would have.
Or they would have, but here, I also love so this is Gotham. I get it now.
Yeah.
I love that. Even though you're like, but you just seen the docks. You haven't even seen the city yet. Hey, no, wait, this is Gotham. Just seeing the docks is enough.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. It's like, that's the other thing I love about this is the self-aware, like making fun of either universe they do. I love this.
Or they left some of the cities and she's like, which are places apparently.
Yeah, I love that.
But as much as I love the mystery that it's Watts, the climax felt too much like a superhero fair. You only had a handful of Grimm. Watts only is there at the beginning, at the end. It's mostly Kilgore possessing some of the heroes because they tried to trap him in another simulation.
Well, and again, it could be because they went superhero-y with this because this is the DC perspective.
That's true, but I just didn't like how it's mostly Kilgore here and Watts, who's the guy you've been wanting to see this. It's more of a case where, they have to pull a Batman gambit and make him talk too much.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we mean by like the fight, while cool, was still underwhelming a little bit for what they built up.
Yeah, and then you have, like, for example, you have finally resolving the stuff with Ruby and Yang, which kind of connects back to Volume 9's ending. But then, and so it's like, I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm not suicidal. But then it then immediately cuts to Yang being possessed. And I got to say, I think her voice, Barbara Dunkelman, did a great job as possessed Yang.
Oh, Dunkelman is a fantastic voice actor. She always has been. Yeah,
but I especially love that. Please, you were a mess since I took over, possessed you. Just how that taunting of it, being overlaid with Kilgore's voice.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and I love Cameron. I looked at Pix and just remembers that Vexen is in this. Yeah, she is, but she has even less to do in this part.
Yeah, by the way, in the comic Justice League, RWBY, you had, here's what I mentioned about Wonder Woman being an automaton created by an equivalent of the Amazons. You had Flash being a turtle faunus, although the joke is his trait is his tail, which is so small you can't see it. Obviously, the joke is he's super fast despite being a turtle.
That's kind of cool.
You have Vixen, I do not believe was not. Yeah, she was not there. But Cyborg in this version was a Atlas young lad who wanted to go into space, and this actually plays off of stuff that was established that dust cannot work in space, so his ship blew up, and then he was put back together by the Elysian military. Mm-hmm. Bruce is a bat faunus.
That makes sense.
Clark has a unique semblance. Now, it's kept up in the air if he actually is from outer space or not. But so far, we're at least led to believe that his semblance is he has so much power, all of his variation of his powers, but it's based almost like what Dust can do, he can do just as well.
Okay, that makes sense. And then when Flash and the turtle, one of his rogues are combined. Yeah, it's really
Yep,
fun.
yep, definitely. I'm trying to remember who else was in the and Jessica is there. Like I said, she's the one who's from the other universe, so she knows what's going on. You have Starro being the main villain, taking over people. Um, like I said, they try to make it fit in this version of Ruby. It's not the main version, obviously.
Hmm.
Oh geez, who else was there? I'm trying to remember. Hold on. Let me quickly look.
Yeah, it's like, but the other thing that I'm kind of, it's like, I tried the DC perspective one on this, and it just fell apart for NJS and no John Jones.
Nope, no Martian Manhunter. Oh,
Yeah.
Aquaman. Aquaman is in this.
Okay. Is he a
Faun,
faunus?
I believe he is. I believe a faunus, but it's either that or just simply they do a very version of Atlantis.
Okay. Yeah, it's like I read the first issue of the
The
if the
follow
Ruby
up.
Girls were brought to DC, and it's because here's the thing. Here's the problem with this. I watched these movies when they came out because it's more of I was interested in DC because I lost interest because here's the problem with Ruby. It progressively got really bad.
I can argue that, but I also won't argue it because there are some elements that didn't do so well, and then others where it was still just as strong.
Yeah, but it's like
It wasn't consistent. I will agree with that.
yeah, it wasn't consistent, and then progressively, I was like, okay, this is getting boring. I'm done.
That's true, but in the DC Ruby comic crossover, they came there because we find out that Lex, looking through the multiverse, found Salem, made a deal with her. She was going to betray him, obviously, and typical Lex being arrogant enough to think he can pull one over on Salem. Yeah, right. And thus the Grimm are coming here. And unlike in the part 2, where the villains were trying to fight against the Grimm, in the case of this comic, the villains attracted, and in some cases, like the Joker, merged with the Grimm.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a big emphasis on fairy tales and stories. In fact, we find out, turns out these two worlds had met long ago, and that there's an example of tales of the Justice League that exists in Remnant, like the tale of the Bat and the Smiling Man.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah, that's good. I like that.
Yep, or about the Amazons, and they play up how, yeah, the rubies are all, and girls are, and world are all based off of fairy tales.
Yeah, but Battle Goon says, for me, I felt like Ruby DC crossovers struggled because DC is very varied in tone and subject, while Ruby is generally optimistic. That is, I mean, they do go kind of grim dark certain reasons, but yeah, I see what you're talking about. With DC, there's more room for like general, like for like a lot of different tones and stuff to be put in there.
Right, and the other thing also is the Grimm and Ruby kind of would alter the world. Like anything technology would fall apart because they were starting to become more like Remnant, where it needed dust, and people would gain semblances just by being in proximity. And you get stuff like Alfred can. Oh, I love in the book, which we never got in part 2, having Weiss meet up with Alfred, which clearly reminds her of her butler Klein.
Mm-hmm. So
I love
me in the Ruby world, people snort dust. Oh man, what type of universe is this?
No. But yeah, and then you have Catwoman can duplicate items. Batman has precog. Nightwing can actually upraise people's spirits. Like, you can do it. Hey, I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Batgirl can, kind of playing off of Oracle, can just know stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, things like that I find very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and by the end of it all, it's all about them trying to come together and stop it all, and they do, and things go back to normal. But yeah, I mean, it's both, and it's on its own the better of the two comic story tales, but I still think part 2 was better overall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah. Part 2 overall was way better. It's like, but it's like the whole crossover. I'm like, the thing is, it's like they tried to. It's like in both parts they kind of Rubyize DC, and that's kind and to Battlegoon's point, that's kind of why, from a surface level, I could see why they would think to pair these two universes together, but it kind of doesn't work.
Yeah, and just to make clear, the reason why after part 3 went the way it did is because originally they just had the maidens. That I believe it was just the maidens, and then Monty, rest in peace, started to come up with other ideas to throw in. He felt really excited about, and then Miles and I just forgot the Carrie. We're all like, oh no. So in a lot of ways, I know a lot of people like to say, oh, things they just ignore what Monty did. Like, no, Monty kept throwing wrenches into everything on his own.
Mm-hmm.
He kept coming up with ideas, and sometimes it'll be a case of, oh, great, now what do we do?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think a lot of people like to blame Carrie and Miles, and to a point that's true, but having Monty around would not have guaranteed that the writing would have gotten any better.
But it would. But see, here's the thing. I think it would. It's a good chance it would have gotten.
Oh, it could have, yeah.
Because here's the thing: the first couple of seasons for RWBY, the reason why they're great is majorly because of Monty, and it's
That's
like
true.
when you lose that, which again, it's like they couldn't control that. But I'm saying when you lose that, you lose like the heart and soul of RWBY, essentially.
That's true, but I do like people like to act like that. They act like Miles and Carrie had no involvement when they were the main writers. He was just the plotter.
Yeah, exactly. And to be clear, it's like, yeah, I like most of RWBY up. It's just it got boring to me at a certain point. That's really it.
Oh, and I get that because, yeah, the first 3 felt like a typical anime being at a school, and then everything changed, and then it became a bit of a slog in some regards because they wanted to focus on character beats and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, by the way, so it's kind of funny. So I kind of so I wish that if they ever do another one, I would like it to be before season 3, because here's why.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm playing as Pyrrha in that game, I'm like, I could so see Pyrrha teaming up with Wonder Woman.
Oh, I wish we had even a moment, even with the fake. I wish we had a moment like that.
I know, because, yeah, she's based on Achilles, very heavily based on Achilles. But can you imagine that?
Oh, and I gotta say, it's so clear Megan Fitzmartin adored Nora in part 1 because she got some awesome moments.
You know, because it's kind of funny. I could see Nora teaming up with Harley.
With the hammers, yeah. Oh, and their manic energy.
Yeah, exactly, very well. But it's like, see, that's the thing. They could do that, but I would say if they do it again, maybe kind of don't try and RWBYfy DC, and maybe try and DC RWBY.
That's very true, and I would agree with that. I will just say though, I do feel, yeah, the writing was strong because it was both of part 2. But regardless, because of the fact that you had both playing off of what part 1 did and everything that had gone up between season 7 and 9, end of 9, which I really like. But I agree with you though, they should. But I also get why they wanted to play it safe because, one, let's be honest, when you have a crossover like this, you're going to make up your own version of the League. You're not going to keep it with the main comics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I get it, but it's like it's still. It's very clear, even in both parts. I think Fitzmartin was more of a fan of RWBY than DC.
I think that kind of shows, yeah. But
yeah, it very much shows in this. Trust me. Yeah,
exactly. But again, I was so impressed when I realized it was her, right? Because I'm like, okay, she didn't really derail many people.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so all in all, I give both movies 7 out of 10.
That's good. I would agree with that. Both. I will give part 1 more to 7, part 2 a 7.5.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd say, I'll tell you what, both a 7.5.
Yeah, because and the whole thing on average, yeah, 7.5. Because
would I rewatch them? Yes, I would.
Yep. Oh yeah, I've rewatched them. I'm more likely to rewatch part 2 than part 1.
Well, I'll tell you, my favorite shot is at the end where they show the Justice League like going into action, and then it's like all those moments. I'm like, yeah, I like this. This is cool.
And it made sense, of course. Like you're gonna end. Like, you started on. Ended part 1 with RWBY's team waking up. So it makes sense to end it here with the League because it's their world.
Yeah, by Battlegoon asks, how do you feel about Kilgore being the villain of all people? I liked
Oh,
it because
it makes sense.
picked a villain that, yeah, it makes sense, but it's one that you'll never see coming because it was kind of funny. I thought Kilgore was a RWBY villain because I've never heard of him before this movie.
And as they say, he's a powerful villain, but he's an idiot.
Yeah, exactly. So when I saw this, I was like, who is Kilgore? And it's like, oh, he's a DC villain?
Yeah, exactly. But I just, again,
He was even in the recent Action Comics story.
Yeah, the G. Willow Wilson two-parter.
Which that was really good, by the way. I love that one.
Yeah, and I did like the whole, like we didn't want to team up with Kilgore, an actual idiot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
They stop them, they capture them, and enslave them, and in this little cube of a simulation. Then I wasn't so sure on, but they kind of rolled themselves into a corner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, overall, yeah, this was a good experiment, a good send-off overall for the Warner Brothers tenure on RWBY, because it was.
Mm-hmm.
This was the finale.
Yeah, and it's like, here's the thing. Does it get me interested to watch more RWBY? No, I gotta be honest, probably not for me.
No.
Just because I have no attachment to the IP then. But was it a fun thing? Yeah, it was. It was.
And I definitely saw a lot of people who were initially like, "Oh God, this is stupid." When they said, like, when eventually it came to HBO Max, I remember seeing on Twitter a lot of people are saying, "This isn't that bad."
That was me too, because I was like, okay, wait a minute. So it's like, because I was like, I was one of those people. I was like, this is the dumbest thing in the world. And then when I watched it, I was like, part one, I was like, it's less dumb. Part two, okay, this is pretty solid.
Yep. Oh, but yeah, they bring up Darkseid. Yeah, because really the only thing you do is have him team up with Salem. But again, if you wanted the movies to fit in with RWBY, you definitely could not do that.
Plus, you needed a villain that RWBY could probably fight. They can't fight Darkseid.
No, they could barely fight. They could barely deal with Salem currently.
And Battlegoon asks, random question for a suggestion for Jared, but how would a RWBY prequel series like Smallville or Gotham work? I will work on that. That's an excellent idea for Wonder Woman Wednesday. I will work on that.
I would call it Themyscira.
Yeah, exactly. That would be a good one. But it's like, it's cool, and all in all,
it could have been a disaster. It could have been
much worse than what it was. Like, good lord.
The comic. I mean, as I said before, I don't know if I said it on the air or not, but the problem the first comic miniseries had was it was done digital first, and it painfully shows.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was one of those cases where if you read the digital one, you realize, some of this seems to go a little slow or a little fast, and you find out, oh, it was digital first, of course.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, digital first is where they go for like the more risky projects.
But also the writing and everything is a bit more stretched out.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas the second mini was done straight to comics, and that's why I still feel that was the better one.
Exactly. So now let's do a little Q&A portion for you guys.
Wait. What did you think about the RWBY redesigns in the DC universe?
I like them largely. I like them more than the Justice League redesigns in the RWBY universe. Yeah,
I especially RWBY. I liked how it wasn't just her outfit; her face also got a slight tweak, making her look a little more mature. Not older, but definitely a bit more mature.
Mm-hmm. Battlegoon says it could have been as frivolous as Ninjas in Love.
That's it. That's Blake's favorite smut book.
Oh God.
It's a joke. Okay, it being a smut book is a joke from RWBY Chibi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and also a cookie because RWBY loves cookies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah, Yang calling out Batman, and in the first issue of DC RWBY, even I agree. That felt a little like that didn't feel like her, at least not in this moment.
Yeah, and it's like
that just didn't feel like Blake at all. It felt like they made Blake a bit too chatty.
Yeah, and then Don J says, "I'm surprised they haven't had a Power Rangers or He-Man crossover in the animated style. It could have.
Right,
that would actually be really cool.
Rights issues."
Oh yeah, that's because they definitely, at the very least, they would have done a Wonder Woman He-Man crossover, which that would have been awesome. By the way, read Wonder Woman Conan, it is superb.
And read Injustice, Masters of the Universe.
Yeah, that too. But if you want a specific just Conan crossover, Wonder Woman Conan is better than it has any right to be.
And Gale's best Wonder Woman.
Yeah, of her Wonder Woman run, which I've even said is like meh, it's way better. But like,
we just said that back ago.
It seems people don't care about the character assassination of the Elsa Kryptonians. But I'm glad you brought this up, NJ. But because Britt sent me, because Gunn did an IGN interview about that change, and he specifically said it's because because he wanted the message of the movie to be, it's not about your blood. It's about like it's essentially nature versus nurture. It's like where you show up. So it's not, so that tells me this, and Gunn straight up defend the change, saying it's happened in the comics before, which Robert, this tells me
it's not, there's no back out.
Changed. And I'm like, it's staying at a 7.
Then why write it like where the first half and second half are radically different?
I think, can I be honest, bro? I think that was your cope.
But
maybe. Let me defend you a little bit, okay? Mm-hmm. He got so much of Superman right in that movie, it seemed unbelievable that he could get this wrong.
Agreed.
Which, I'm on your side on this because, again, guys, I put out a tweet today, and here's the lesson I want to leave you guys with. I liked both Superman and Man of Steel. I may still prefer the Snyder era of DC, but I still liked it because there's room for many different versions. I'm not going to say you have to like one or the other.
By the way, Mac, I strongly disagree.
No. He does care about DC in the comics. He got too much of that movie right. He got too much about comics right in that movie in order for me to say he doesn't care.
Exactly.
And he did. He said it's in the comics, which even Brucifer in our review stream talked about that. Which I'm like, yeah, it does. There's plenty in the comics that shouldn't be adapted.
That I agree with that. I agree. So yeah, he does care. He's picking elements. Now, if I was to compare this with how Zach would pick cherry pick elements, Zach a lot of times would pick stuff because it was cool. He felt like he wanted to tell. Gunn picked stuff to tell a story. Doesn't mean he picked out good stuff.
Yeah. And by the way, Balgun says to me, I'm like of Gunn's obsession with sack jokes and crude here. I disagree on that, Battlegoon. I mean, at least he based it off the comics. The problem is, it's like, this is the part of because here's my problem. This is going to decide how a generation of people see the Kryptonians, and particularly Jor-El and Lara.
Agreed.
That's my specific problem with him. Because say what you want about Zack Snyder, he made it a point in Man of Steel to show, no, Jor-El, he said, you're intended to be the bridge and the ideal for them to strive to. You're not supposed to rule them.
Exactly. And I know in the end it does have to be he does then prefer his adoptive parents over that. But at the same time, at least there's the message given of it's your choices. All we do is give you a stepping point. So basically, even saying, hey, we're not, you're your own person. We just help get you there.
Yeah, I know. And the rest of it is fine. But it just seems like a bit, because here's the thing. When I was talking to Britt about this, it was a red flag when Gunn said that as he was writing it, he was reading John Byrne's Superman.
But even there, Jor-El was the exception.
It's
Lara was the one who was more diehard in the Kryptonian ways. Jor-El was the one who was, much like Superman, unique among his peers.
Yeah, it's like Gunn. I get that Gunn wants to do something completely different than like what's ever been done before, but this is one of those things you really shouldn't change.
Yeah, but not that though. But the conquering days were in its path, not its present, and not its end.
Yeah, and it's like. The other thing, it's emblematic of why I didn't like my adventures with Superman, because they went heavy into that as well. And I go, bro.
Yeah.
Why are you and I will say, I am proud of people being intellectually consistent and saying, yeah, we may not have liked like the Jonathan Kent saying maybe or the tornado scene, but we also don't like this. So I'm like, okay, at least people are being majority of people are being
And
consistent.
I'll say this. It's just this moment here is in many ways just as damning, but at the same time, there's a difference. It didn't affect my enjoyment of the story like the Jonathan Kent one.
Which, yeah, and that's fine. And we can have a disagreement of that. It's like, it's like when you make this change, and I'm like, it makes me think. Watch because I wonder if another director does Superman, if they'll go, nope, I'm trashing this. This is stupid.
And by the way, NJ, I doubt that.
Again, we have to see because remember, he's not, as far as we know, he's not writing Wonder Woman.
He might have a hand in it, but that's going to be up to the writer still to do it. He's just going to make sure it could fit in with his universe.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like,
which is what he should do.
Now, the other thing that I'm wondering, because with Supergirl, watch him make it where Kara's parents were the ones that were more optimistic and against the conquering.
So, in other words, reverse Jeff Loeb.
Yeah, reverse Jeff Loeb.
It does the reversal of it.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, looks like this movie will forever be a 7 out of 10. Still good, but still a 7 out of 10.
And for all we know, the way he might stick to his guns. He might. I think, and there is still a good chance if the reaction is strong enough, he might.
He might. That's what I'm saying, because so far I have seen almost universal going, no, this is stupid.
Yeah, but they're not being dicks about it. Saying, well, at least most aren't. Most aren't.
They're saying, look, the rest of this movie is pretty good. It's just this issue is like, no.
And I think that's going to get more convincing when you have people being reasonable in their arguments, not about it. You're more likely to get them to actually think, did I go too far?
Yeah, and it's like I at the very least, at least it's big from the comics, so I get that. But it's like, again, let me put it this way. By this argument, I'm using an extreme argument, but it illustrates my point. Should we also adapt Lois Lane being turned into a black woman then? That's from the comics as well.
Well, in that one's defense, that was one-time story and it wasn't permanent.
Yeah, exactly. But Cameron says, I just want to ask, how come you don't like Kara calling Clark? Because that's not Clark. That's not Kara. And in a Superman movie, no.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. That made me cringe.
It's blame Tom King's Superman.
Again, that part made me cringe. I was just like, eee.
I'm like, no, that was one of the few times in the movie where they were where it was Gunn doing his regular Gunn humor, and I'm like, I thought you would be better than that.
Hopefully the writing will be better in Supergirl, because at least they didn't tell us this was written by the Supergirl writer.
Yeah, I would love if they make Woman of Tomorrow an actually like a better story. Like if they write Tom King's story better than Tom King does.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, like I was gonna say, I mean, it is her in personality, and she said like, I mean, to be fair, yeah, she did say that it's more of a chuck, like later, bitch, like that, like.
Yeah, but still, it's like I don't in a movie where it's like a portion of it is people crapping on Superman. I'm like, no, come on, stop.
That's true. That is very true. I will say my other one downside with the Kryptonian thing is that, yes, people turn around, but it's like they completely ignore the fact they thought he was being a conqueror. I mean, yeah, does this prove that he wasn't? Yes, but that's still too damning of a statement to have it just let slide.
Well, remember, according to Gunn, no, the thing is legitimate. So it's like it's still there, and I do agree.
I know.
They turn way too fast. It's kind of funny. They turn against him too fast, but then they also turn for him too fast.
Why do they say that's consistent?
Yeah, at least that's consistent. But still, it's like you would still have more. Now, as far as we know, in the sequel, there could be more people that are like, "Hey, he may." There is a chance he changes it and like goes to be evil.
Yeah, I also say I did like how they do show us stuff about, yes, there's the destruction, but one, we already see that things close up, when everything was restored, so it made putting things back together a lot easier. And we do see in the post-credits shot, even though it was a bit of a gag, we do see, hey, yeah, they're helping make sure things are repaired. I like that, as opposed to, well, we're off later.
Well, as far as you know, well, it's like in their defense.
No, I'm showing you on screen is what I mean. Showing you on screen.
Yeah, because in Man of Steel, I'm sure he helped people.
But they make it clear to people because not everyone wants to just assume, oh, it happened off screen because like then show it. Otherwise, it's easier to assume he didn't.
See, I'm kind of against the fact that you have to show literally everything.
Oh no, I agree. That gets tedious and annoying. I completely agree with that.
It's like I don't think we should have to have a scene where they're like, oh yeah, the entire area's been evacuated. I'm like, if it gets evacuated, here's the thing: it also loses a little bit of the tension.
By the way, the evacuation, I think that's one of the rare cases where losing the day stuff hurt.
What do you mean?
Because I think they would have done a cut, to have them evacuate, start the we would have cut to the next day and they're wrapping up when they were supposed to show Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday and all that.
Yeah.
I think when it was going to do the evacuation, that would have been the next day so we could think, oh, this is the tail end of the evacuation, as opposed to implying this is within the same day.
But as far as we know, they started the evacuation on the same day as the battle.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's where I think one of the cases where losing the day, title cards hurt it.
Yeah, I would say so too, because it's way too. There's no way you're going to be able to evacuate a city that fast.
I mean, granted, Arkham Knight did show it was feasible.
As far as we know, that
they said 24 hours. You have 24 hours.
Yeah, but that's contrived to make the game like.
Oh no! Oh, I know. I know. I'm just saying. It's just there's a precedence in a DC Universe story.
Yeah, I get it, but
I'm being a smart ass dude.
Yeah, a Battle Goon ass. Speaking of Just League RWBY, which characters do you think fit in the other's universe? Wonder Woman, I think, fits pretty well in the RWBY world.
Definitely Wonder Woman. I'd say Ruby and Weiss fit in the DC universe more than even Blake and Yang. Although Yang, they had her dress up like an Amazon in the DC RWBY crossover, but she never really. And they did interact with the Amazons, which I liked, but they didn't play off on that because she did look very Amazonian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
But definitely, to be fair, I do think all the girls could fit in the DC universe on their own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say so. That's the advantage of the characters. Is like, they do seem like they could work really well in there.
Yeah, I mean, Wonder Woman, like you said, especially Wonder Woman. Be honest, I preferred Part 1's handling over the Automaton. The Automaton was fine, but it just made her too separate from being Wonder Woman.
I don't like Wonder Woman being a robot. I just don't.
I know. I mean, again, I get it. It was meant to be a nod to Penny. I get that.
There are other characters you could do that with. Cyborg, that would make sense.
That's true. Oh, and the ship teases. That's something I have to agree was a little overdone in the first mini. Because you had Bruce and I did like the chemistry in the comic between Bruce and Weiss. It felt natural. Both rich people having to deal with, the trauma of living in Atlas. But then you also had her fall for Cyborg at one point just because he's attractive, and it's just like, oh, come on, Weiss.
Yeah.
But like I said, I did love Part 2. At the very end, I always felt like I want to see Weiss wearing a Robin outfit. I wanted to see her wearing a Robin outfit.
NJ brings up an interesting point. Could Zod be a good guy in the DCU? Can you imagine if they do that?
Oh no, I doubt it.
Yeah, but it's if they do that, while I'll say at least they did something narratively interesting, I'll still be like, this is dumb.
Yeah, again, I highly doubt it. But like I said, come on, did you ever feel like at the end of Part 2, you almost want to see Weiss dress up as a Robin, even for a moment?
Anyone Batman teams up with eventually, I'm like, how would they be as a Robin?
Yeah, but they showed us Weiss can think on her feet.
Yeah, that's the other thing, by the way, that made me leave RWBY, because it's like, at a certain point, they started like doing ship stuff just for doing ship stuff.
Oh, like, yeah, the Bumblebee shipping.
Yeah, I'm like, and then the minute that the creators behind RWBY's actually did it, I was like, I'm done. No.
Well, to be fair, it was when you really look back, there were clues there.
I think that was people just reading into it.
No. Even Monty did directly tease it, and you have stuff like Yang telling Blake, if you come to the dance, I'll save you a dance." It's like, yeah. How else do you read that?
Hmm.
Come on, you're a girl telling another girl, "I'll save you a dance."
Yeah, I guess. But
You don't have that happen as friends.
it's not just with Bumblebee. It's like the other things that they kind of. I'm
Well,
like, stop with the ship teasing. Just stop.
true, but it's been mostly the Bumblebee shipping and the White
Cameron
Rose.
Cameron
Sorry,
brings up the point. There were clues, but it was half-assed.
that's true. I would say the White Rose. No, that is never happening. Both actresses for Cara and Lindsay say no.
By the way, Battle Goon says, "I feel weird about the Bumblebee ship. I like Yang and I like Blake, but I don't know if they make sense to Deja.
Agreed.
Both as bi women, but opposite personalities. But Battle Goon, remember, opposites attract, which that is the stupidest excuse. That's just the excuse to be able to ship anyone.
Oh, trust me, there are cases. I've seen some cases where it works, but for the most part, it is so lazily done.
Like Wonder Bat.
Yep. Or, hey, the people like to bring up Sam and Diane from Cheers, but you realize those two would have been toxic if they had together.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, just stop with that whole thing. Zod and Jor-El might be, yeah, exactly, friends in the DCU. I know. I'm like, it's just, you know, it's kind of funny, Robert. I wanted to believe that they would that was just Gunn saying, "Hey, don't believe everything you see." But I'm like,
but he doubled it. And yeah, now, yeah, that just makes me groan. Does it make me want to knock it down a point? No, it's not going to make me knock it down further. It's just going to make me.
I already accounted for that, so it's not. I told you it's a 7, but if they address it, it goes back up to an 8. Since it's not likely they're going to address it, 7.
Agreed. Which that's fine. That's fine. Did it tank the whole movie? No.
No. I'm not one of those fans that's like, just because this one thing I hate doesn't mean the entire movie's horrible.
Yeah, heck, even with me and Man of Steel, did the Jonathan Kent hurt? Really bother me much and more a sticking point? Yes, but it didn't ruin my view of the movie. It was something that I was more going to dwell on, like, ugh.
Yeah, and that's totally fair because, again, you're allowed to have your preferences and you're fair about that. It's like, I still enjoyed it. It's my second favorite Superman movie.
Yeah, exactly. And I appreciate that because that's a lot more than I've seen from some people. Yeah. Then there's other people who are like, they were never going to get a chance. And then they said, I wanted to like it. Stop lying.
Yeah, it's like, but it is, but again, I am very happy that most of the people that are actual critics, actual critics, but the people that have been not kind to Zack in the past are even saying, yeah, that decision was stupid.
Yeah, agree. Like I said, I won't be surprised if Gunn will rework it.
I hope so. I hope so.
I think
as of now, I don't think they will, but hey, I could be wrong on this.
Yeah, like I said, it could be a case of, like I said, so long as people are being more polite about it and you're not overwhelmed by the negative outrage, he is probably more likely to listen.
We'll see. This is the one time where Gunn being constantly on the online kind of helps.
Yeah, like I said, but you agree with that part at least? So long as it's not majority ranting idiots complaining, I think he'll more likely look into it. If it's the loudest are the ranting idiots, he'll dismiss it.
And by the way, NJ, I did read the preview for Wonder Woman 23. You mean Wonder Woman being gassed up by Stephanie Brown? Yeah, I did read that. It's
really?
It's bringing another Bat Family character.
One that hasn't been used since Martin wrote her off.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, I get what you're trying to do. I get he's trying to have other people tell you how awesome Wonder Woman is, but can you have a Wonder Woman related character?
Agreed. By the way, can I bring up my opinion on the second issue of the Trinity mini?
Yeah, sure.
I thought it was actually pretty decent. Great? No, but it's starting to make me feel like even in the book so far, it looks like even they're trying to say Adult Trinity is full of it.
I just don't like the Red Hood stuff, the Jason Todd stuff.
True, and I will agree with that, but it still makes me stand by my stance of teen and kid Trinity are the better ones. Adult Trinity is the insufferable one.
Yeah, exactly. But Battle Goon says, I think Tom King can only write Batman characters saying how great Wonder Woman is, but he makes Wonder Woman weak. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if when he inevitably leaves Wonder Woman, he goes back to writing a Bat Family book.
We already know he's doing a one-shot with McNiven of all people.
Which, that's interesting. But yeah, my point is, I wouldn't be surprised if that's his next project. They're like, hey, I'm going to go write in the Bat Family thing. We're all like, bye.
That's true. That's true. But
yeah.
Who can say? Who can say?
Who can say? But I think it's a good place to leave it. So, all right. So, again, 7.5 out of 10 for this. And it's like, is it...
I recommend it. I recommend it for the fun factor.
Yep. Yeah, I would. Would I rewatch this? Yeah, I mean, I rewatch part 2 occasionally. I rewatch part 1 occasionally. It's not, let me put it this way, it's not horrible at all. No.
I said I'd rather watch this over the Crisis trilogy.
I'm going to disagree with that because I have Superman and Wonder Woman. But still, my point is like, do I like this? Yeah, particularly because also this did Jessica Cruz really well. Even if she faded into a background character in part 2, we still had like the cool portrayal of Jessica.
Yeah, exactly. And she was so helpful in fights.
Yeah, so I'm like, let me put it this way. Of the Green Lanterns they could have used, they used Jessica. I'll take what I can get at this point.
Yep, and Wendy still shines very well.
Yeah, and again, Laura Bailey is Wonder Woman. And ironically, her husband is playing Superman.
And she also played Lois.
Yeah, you have to bring that up, dude.
Of course I do. Last funny thing, when you do see Joker and Harley, I just find it funny how the way Harley is sitting, I know it's supposed to be those little, the new 52 look and having those little attachments, but it makes her butt look huge.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, by the way, I will say this: Laura Bailey perfectly encapsulated how annoying Lois is. I had to end on
in the Super Sons movie, really?
Yeah, exactly. And I love Pika. Shout out to Pika when he used me, and then Lois goes, "I knew you were under their control as soon as you took the meeting." And he goes, "No, you didn't. Stop trying to make yourself sound smarter than you already are." I'm like, thank you, Pika. Anyway, stay heroic, everyone. Remember, Lois Lane is Lois Lane. She belongs to General Zod. Zoe and Maximat for life. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.